Hello friends, I am Farhan from HLTF Tech and today we will talk about SharePoint. What is actually the SharePoint is. So I will tell you from beginning so that any person who is watching my video can have a better idea of what the SharePoint is. This video is actually meant for uh, beginners or the people who want to understand about what the SharePoint is, why it is used, how it is used, what is the architecture of SharePoint, and which version currently Microsoft has released, and what are its benefits relative to the previous versions. Okay, so first of all, SharePoint is a web-based platform, and it is used for collaboration. Okay, multiple members of team can share what they can share. They can share their documents, they can share their media including videos. Similarly, there can be sharing of some news, dissemination of some announcement. Okay, so these are some of the important things that SharePoint can effectively give you a platform through which you can share these things. Okay, so why SharePoint is so useful and why it is so famous? The basic functionality of SharePoint is document management. This thing is very important. Many larger organizations are using this feature, that is documents management, and it because it offers you various type of benefits. Let me tell you, the first benefit is uh, okay, let me tell you, there are document libraries. These are the apps in SharePoints are out of the box solution, out of the box applications that you can use just by installing them. It's already included in the solution. So it can offer you version control, so that whenever you change the document, you don't need to make multiple copies. The the SharePoint automatically manages the versions of these documents. Similarly, rights access, you can control the rights access on the documents. In SharePoint terminology, it is known as information rights management. Okay, so it can also offer you sharing among other members of the team. For example, if you are working in HR department and you want to share some particular department document with the finance team, you can easily do so. But for this condition, you need to configure it with some exchange server or some mail server. Okay, so similarly, it can offer you co-authoring. What is co-authoring? It means simultaneously many people can work on a single document. For example, you are given your team is given a task of some document, working on a PowerPoint presentation. In our environment, it is very common. The time is very stressed. many people want to sit in their office and want to do their uh, for example, there are 5 people who want to make a presentation, and they have different area of scope. During saying, let me explain you. You want to work on a single presentation, and there is there are you want to work on a single presentation, and there are its 3 components. Okay, I want to change its field. One is you want to work on finance part. The other person, the other team group or subgroup want to work on HR part, and one more team or a part of the team wants to work on a, let's say, logistics part. So what will you do? All of the members can access a single presentation that is saved on a some particular document libraries. All the team members have access to this presentation, and they can work simultaneously on a single presentation. So that is known as co-authoring. Okay, there are many other features. I will tell you many of them in my upcoming videos, because I am planning to prepare a complete environment and want to share it with you, so that the people who want to excel in the field of Microsoft SharePoint, they must get some useful tips from that videos. Okay, so now coming to the point, what actually the SharePoint architecture is. Okay, so now I am going to tell you about the SharePoint architecture. So SharePoint architecture is, you have I am again explaining you with shapes. You have a I am telling you about SharePoint on premise. Okay, on premise means that you are developing a SharePoint on your own servers, on in your own domain. For this you need a domain controller, in which there must be a DNS, there must be an Active Directory, and there must be some users in that is known as in OUs, organizational units. Okay, you have a domain controller. What you will do, you will create a new server. You will create a new server, and that server will be known as SharePoint DB server, because on which in this server you will install the SQL server, and this server will be responsible for storing all the data of SharePoint websites. Let me tell you here a very important thing that may be beneficial for you in your upcoming career progression, that SharePoint doesn't save any data in itself. It saves all the data in its DB server. Okay, so now there will be two servers. You will create two more servers, that are SharePoint App Server. In this server you will install the role of SharePoint Application Server, and you will create one more server that will be known as front end server. Okay, now let me tell you what is the difference between SharePoint App Server and SharePoint Web Frontend Server. Okay, SharePoint App Server is responsible for backend queries. It processes all the queries with its DB server, including let me tell you through it gives you SharePoint App Server queries, various search processes, various queries regarding which requires there are for example let me explain you in a very easy words. SharePoint processes its timer jobs. There are timer jobs which are necessary for checking the health, which are necessary for checking the services configured. All of these things are processed by the app server with the SharePoint DB server, and all the requests that are coming from the users are directed towards the SharePoint end server. Okay, and web front end server send these requests to SharePoint DB server. So all the client requests, all the client requests let me change its figure. Traffic of users, all the traffic of user comes in SharePoint front-end server. The SharePoint front-end server has website hosted on IIS. Okay, the website is hosted on IIS that acknowledges these requests and processes these the data that is asked from the users from the DB server. Okay, and last of all these requests are validated through domain controller regarding user rights. Okay, the users that are accessing the SharePoint resources must be a part of domain controller Active Directory. So this is a very simple scenario. Now let's conclude that finally that what we learned today. As per the architecture is concerned, first of all you must have a domain controller on premise. that is your own domain controller. You must create a new server and will make it, or I will say, and will make it a part of domain. Okay, we say it's a member server of domain controller. Then we will install SQL in it. Then we will create a new server and will make it a part of domain controller, and then we will install SharePoint with application role. Okay, and same steps we will follow for install SharePoint with front end role. Okay, so these are the steps. If we explain it through diagram, I have already explained it. Domain controller, we will create a DB server, make it a member server, and will install SQL in it. Then we will create one more server, and we will create one more server for front end server, and all the traffic will come through this. Okay, let me tell you one more thing. This environment is for larger organizations. If you want to run SharePoint in a in your testing environment, what you can do, you can install all these things in your practical environment. There will be no user traffic from outside. You will have limited users for testing. You will install all these things. You can install all these things into a single server. Okay, but in that case it will be for testing only. But if you want to make a big server with that can handle your actual environment comprising of many users, let's say we have 500 to 1000 users, what we will do, we will separate these, we will create these separate servers. Okay, now in a very large organization, I'm going to tell you about very large organizations that have 1000 to 10,000 or million users. You will create this search server. SharePoint search server is responsible for configuring search and uh, crawling the data of SharePoint. Okay, and there must be a separate distributed cache server. Okay, it's the case of large organizations with large users. Okay, now architecture for fault tolerance. It means in a large organization I am giving you the scenario that in very large organizations, you want to, what you want to do, you want to create multiple sites so that if any site fails or crash, your site remains active from fault tolerant site. In that case, what will you do? You will install let me tell you SP SharePoint DB server, and you will have SharePoint app server, and here you will have SharePoint. I'm telling you a very simple environment. In this I have let me create a picture, sorry, shape, and shape fill, no fill. Okay, this is your, this overall portion is known as your primary site. Okay, so same model you will create for, same model you will create in a different setup or different server, which will be known as your fault tolerant site. Okay, so all the let me do this in a separate slide so that I can explain you well. Just give me a second to explain you in a very well environment. Okay, so these are two SharePoint sites, and the first one is known as primary site, the second one is known as fault tolerant site. In that case, as you all know that SharePoint must have single database. Okay, so in this case what you will do, you will create a cluster of DB server so that uh, let me cluster of SQL server with synchronization of DBs. Okay, this is a vast topic. I am just giving you an idea so that you may understand the SharePoint architecture. You will configure this a cluster of SQL server, and I want to change its color. Okay, leave it. What you can do, You will create a cluster of this with synchronization or asynchronization or synchronization. It depends upon you. You want live replication of data, or you want to have it after some period of time. So all the traffic all the traffic that is coming from users, all the traffic is coming to WFE servers. You may have multiple WFE servers as well. Let's say I have two WFE servers here. You can have 3 or 4 to distribute the load of users depending upon the users. So let it keep it simple. When the users are coming to both WFE servers. Okay, these WFE servers are talking with DB server directly, and in some cases talking with app server. Okay, same thing is happening to this, but in this case this WFE server is talking to this server because it's known as a primary DB server, and this one is known as secondary DB server. Okay, now what happens? This overall site fails. This overall site fails. So let me explain through some shape. I will enter a dangerous shape that is round, and I will twist it, and I will convert it to red so that it specifies clearly that it fails. So in that case, this DB server will not be accessible anymore. So you will make this DB server as primary. Now in that case, all the users will be coming to this WFE server or this site. Okay, so this site in such case is providing you a fault tolerance. Meanwhile, you can restore your site with any technology that you are using. So that is about the architecture for fault tolerance. This architecture is used in a very large organization in which the data is of very high importance, and you never want, the organization never wants to lose the data in any case. Okay, so I'm just giving you a general overview of SharePoint. It have multiple features, and it also has different architectures in many scenarios, but most common things are SharePoint application server, SharePoint web front end server, and it has a cache server which can be installed along with application servers or as a separate server, and it has a search engine as well. I will tell you each of them very briefly in a practical demonstration in very near future. I am preparing my environment on premise, and I will share it with you. I will be with you while installation, while configuring, and while creating some very attractive websites on SharePoint. Uh, I will tell you everything step by step. So continue watching my channel, and keep subscribing my channel so that you can get the latest updates of my channel and my videos. I thank you all. Take care.